This episode is brought to you by Fetch. Fetch is a kennel alternative right here in Denver, not a traditional doggy daycare or boarding school. They offer one-on-one private pet care for all kinds of pets, both furry and non-furry. And their employees are experienced, insured, bonded, and background checked, so you can rest easy knowing your pet is in good hands. Basically, they know pets. I used to watch a Burmese mountain dog named Sven, who was just like walking a polar bear. It was insane. Fetch offers pet sitting, dog walking, pet taxi, medication administration, and more. And he hated going on walks. I could like walk him around the block, and then he'd just like to lay in the bathtub. So if you're looking for high quality pet care you can trust, check out Fetch at northdenver.fetchpetcare.com. That's northdenver.fetchpetcare.com. Today on CityCast Denver, the campus debate over Gaza exploded last week, so we sent our producer Olivia Jewell Love to speak with student protesters at Auraria campus yesterday. She joins me and producer Paul Karolyi to talk about what's been happening and what's next. Plus, we look into a very strange bookstore situation on 32nd Avenue and stick around for a sponsored interview about a great new way to get your groceries. Today is Tuesday, April 30th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Bree, good morning.
Producer Olivia Jewell Love, good morning.
Good morning, you two.
So we have to talk about the biggest story of this weekend that actually started last week involving the Auraria campus. All weekend and beyond was these pro-Palestine protests on campus, and they've been happening across the country pretty much since back day one in October. But Denver is now part of this story even more so. Paul, can you explain what's going on at Auraria campus?
Well, yeah, but I do want to back up a little bit
Sure.
because in case this is the first time people are hearing about what's happening, which I would be honestly shocked if that's the case, but it's worth saying, October 7th of last year, the Palestinian resistance group, some people would call it a militant group, Hamas, attacked Israel, killed 1,200 people. And then the Israeli military retaliated, launched an assault on Gaza that is still ongoing. To date, I think there's more than 34,000 people have been killed. That's what I last saw in the New York Times, at least.
And I also just want to make a note that as of March, Al Jazeera posted that over 13,000 of those killed were children killed in Gaza. So a lot of people here in the United States are upset about what's happening, including students. Many young people. We know this is how the politics is breaking down. Young people typically are disproportionately upset and taking, perhaps, feeling a little bit more sense of solidarity with the Palestinian people, the folks in Gaza. So that feeling of frustration and anger has built up to this nationwide movement on college campuses that really broke out last week. On Thursday, here in Denver, a few dozen students set up tents on the Tivoli Quad at the Auraria campus. And they were calling on the three colleges that share that campus to end their relationship with Israel. That includes a reported $3 million in contracts that CU Denver has made with Israel since 2016. They also want to end the study abroad programs to Israel. And they say they won't leave the quad until their demands are met. So that's Thursday. Okay. Then on Friday, this whole thing ratcheted up a whole nother level because the police showed up. This was a few hours before there was some rain and snow in the forecast, but the police showed up. They arrested dozens of protesters. They dismantled the tents. Denver 7 reports that a spokesperson for the Auraria Higher Education Center, that's the campus administration body, said that the encampment violates their policy. This is a quote, "Although students are allowed to peacefully protest, setting up tents is a violation," apparently. I thought this was interesting just because there was this statement that went out from state and local legislators in support of the students, and they acknowledged that the camping ban issue. They said the First Amendment ensures that students are entitled to protest and this should not be infringed despite a localized camping ban on Auraria campus. We do not find tents a justifiable reason for the Denver Police Department to enact violent arrests. So I thought that was an interesting component of this conversation.
Yeah, the nature of the police presence is certainly at issue here, because that has not been the case at every campus where students have set up these tents.
Right.
Some campuses definitely have called in the cops. Like I saw this video of an Emory professor being very violently arrested. That was quite upsetting, but not every campus is doing that. Some campuses, like Cornell, they're suspending student leaders for the semester, but they're not calling the cops. So different campuses are responding in different ways. Here, but the police were there.
So who else was there over the weekend, though? Because I think there were some really interesting folks who showed up.
Yeah, this is where things get interesting. So after the police went and swept the tents, Mayor Mike Johnston showed up. He was there with a security detail, and he had a pretty tense interaction with some of the protesters.
Our demands are not being met.
Hold on, can you let me talk then? Thank you.
Do you support genocide?
I'm sorry, can you let me talk? I'm going to talk for 60 seconds.
It's a really simple question. Yes or no? Our
I'm going
demands
to
are
talk for
met.
60 seconds and I'll walk. If you want to listen, you can. If not, that's your choice. So what we want to do is we want to make sure people can protest peacefully. We also have to have a campus that can continue to operate here. So our ask is we need you all to be able to pull down the tents. That is against the campus policy. You can continue to protest peacefully here once the tents come down. We have no desire to make any arrests for anyone. We want them to be able to protest.
What about if
the tents can come down, I need to finish talking, please. If the tents can come down in the next 30 minutes, we need you all to do that. The tents can be removed from the campus.
So he was basically there also representing the administration, seeming to side with them to try to enforce the administration's policy of getting these tents out of this quad.
Yeah.
So that's Friday. Then Saturday, on the other side of things, Angela Davis, the civil rights icon, famous activist, she happened to be in town doing a talk at Colorado College down in the Springs. So then she showed up at Tivoli Quad and stood in solidarity with the protesters. And it sounds like, at least I saw one quote from a protester, that was quite invigorating, especially after the snow and the rain on Friday night.
Yeah.
I don't know how many protesters stuck around Friday night through that, but it was pretty rough weather.
Yeah.
And then when she showed up, I think they found a second wind.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the kind of thing that would energize you if you're in this position and someone who has this incredible history with doing this kind of work shows up to our little Denver campus.
Yeah.
So,
but that brings us pretty much up to today, because the protesters are still out there. And Olivia, I think you stopped by this morning. What'd you see?
I did. I went by the quad this morning and went up to the encampment, and all the tents are still up there. I'd say probably 20-ish tents. There's a lot of like camping tents, and then they've got some of the like pavilion tents that are kind of more of their organizing areas. And then they have an area for prayer. And I talked to some students that said they had like group yoga in the morning and just some...
They did group yoga this morning?
Yeah, they did. They did. And then they have a little bathroom area set up with some of those pop-up bathroom tent things that Colorado campers probably know about.
I was like, if we are equipped to do this.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the paint bucket with the like...
No, the portable tent.
I didn't see inside it. I didn't go inside the bathroom, but it's the pop-up tent that you put whatever you're using as a bathroom mechanism inside it. So they had a little like pavilion that they're like, this is where the bathrooms are, and they had a couple of those set up in there. So you wouldn't even have to leave the encampment.
And you talked to someone connected to the...
I did. I talked to their representative that they've chosen to speak to the media. He's with the Students for the Democratic Society. His name is Khalid Hamu. And so he kind of gave me the lowdown about what happened on Friday when the police came. He said that around 60 riot officers came. By that, I mean police officers in riot gear, which... From the photos, you can see they have like, face shields and things.
Yeah, they had more equipment. I mean, I don't know if they would call themselves riot gear.
Yeah, this is self-described from the student, and they just have more than a normal cop on the street. And he said that 47 of the students in the encampment were arrested. Most of them, his other organizers that were working with him, they all linked arms and built a chain, and the police came in and pulled them apart and dragged some people out of the interlinked arms and arrested them.
We were peaceful protesters. There was no violence on our side. We told the Colorado governor's office and the campus, hey, if you bring police, you're bringing violence onto peaceful student protesters, and that's what they decided to do.
So we've seen images of police across the country doing this. Like you said, Paul, it depends on how it seems the campuses as well as the cities are choosing to respond to this. can we talk more about the cop presence?
I think so. I think the backstory is important here. So the campus administrators put out a statement about this after the police showed up, and they explained the backstory from their perspective. They said in the weeks leading up to and during the past 2 days, this was last week before the tents got set up, campus administrators repeatedly spoke with numerous protesters and advised them of our policy. This is the no tents on the quad policy, including providing them written copies. When protesters did not comply after numerous requests to do so, law enforcement stepped in to remove the encampment. So you'll notice that they did not say if law enforcement was called or how they decided to get there. And I honestly think that's still an open question that I mean,
who ordered it?
Who ordered it? Who called for this? Who
too.
wanted this? I mean, I understand they have this policy. And, interestingly enough, our friend of the show, Chase Woodruff from Colorado Newsline, he says this policy apparently originated back at a previous encampment at Auraria in 2003 in opposition to the Iraq War.
Oh.
So I don't know if they've had any similar instances since then. I don't remember ever hearing about cops being called to campus. To me, it seems like this is what a campus is for. I feel like a protest on a college campus is not a bug, it's a feature of college. That's why you go to college, is to have these kinds of debates and a healthy discourse and talk about the things you believe in.
Yeah, I think that, but I think going back to that, the who made the call, we need receipts on this, the email, the phone call, who started that? Because I was thinking about that all weekend. I was like, is this the thing that the mayor does? Is this the thing that the Auraria Higher Education makes that call? How does that happen? And it's very curious.
Well, fortunately, we're sitting down with the mayor tomorrow afternoon, so we'll get a chance to ask him directly.
Yeah, I'm so curious.
What I'm curious about is what's next.
From what I understood, I asked how long, are you willing to, because as we know, the semester is wrapping up for college students, and they said that they are willing to stay until their demands are met.
Well, and I will just say this is an interesting campus in that it is kind of a year-round campus, being this like urban campus where there's not as many people there during the summer for sure, but it doesn't shut down. It's not like we're a college town where everybody disappears. So I think there will be plenty of activity there regardless. So I would not be surprised if folks still felt empowered to stay.
Yeah. Well, that's another interesting point about this, because I think the folks who are maybe on the other side of this, like the administrators and people who just don't want to see this kind of like protest happening or are worried about it growing or getting violent or something. Like, you're hearing people make this point that it's disruptive, that these protests are disruptive, that they're in the way of campus activities. But that's something else that's unique about AHEC, right? And maybe, Bree, you probably know this better than I do, but it's a commuter school.
Yeah.
It's not like there's dorms on this campus. There's not students being kept up at night by protesters.
No.
And I will say when I went by this morning at 9 a.m., it was very morning time activities, quiet. No one was chanting. No one was yelling. Everybody was just quietly. There were some people eating breakfast. A lot of the students were off at class. There were people still, holding down the camp, but other people were off at class doing things. Or I saw some people doing class from their computers on the lawn. So it was, very quiet and respectful for the morning. And when I talked to the student leaders, they told me they estimated there were about 23 students actively camping, but they didn't have a super accurate number because people were coming and going so much.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was going to say a lot of the folks I saw, at least in my sphere of social media, were not students, but people active in the activism world or folks that are just have been talking about this for a long time online. And this, I think at some point for some folks felt like the time that they could go out and show their support. I also think there's just a lot of eyes on this right now. That, like I mentioned, that statement from a bunch of legislators. I mean, it's like Representative Meg Froelich, Representative Javier Mabry, Tim Hernandez, Leslie Herod, Emily Sirota. A ton of folks are not only supporting this from a powerful position, but watching what's happening. So there's going to be a lot of accountability.
Lots of issues at play. It's not just how do you feel about Israel and Palestine. It's how do you feel about free speech on campus.
Yes.
It's really these two hot button issues colliding.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, the curious case of the strange bookstore. Okay, we're back. Normally, we do listener comments and questions on Tuesdays, but we actually got a tip from you all and we wanted to look into it, and Paul did a little bit of investigating. Paul, what did you look into?
Well, you call it a tip, but for me, this was a gift. This was my favorite email I've received in a long
I was
time.
So curious what I just please just read it so folks know what we're tripping about.
Here's the message from listener Katerina. Katerina writes, "Hello. My friends and I were perusing local bookstores and stumbled upon 32nd Avenue Toys and Gifts. We were initially shocked that a local business with 200 plus reviews had only 1.5 stars. The more we read, the more questions we were holding, and it sounds like we're not alone. Can you poke around and see what's going on here? Huge fan of the podcast. Appreciate your work. Cheers, Katerina."
200 plus reviews, 1.5 stars. I mean, it's not impossible for that to happen if you get like comment bombed or whatever, but it seemed a little bit weirder than that.
It was a big stretch of time, too.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
this was not just like one moment.
Yeah. And it's Yelp reviews and it's Google reviews. It's the same story. There's that was where I started. Because this is my favorite thing, is these user reviews. I love these.
You do love these reviews.
But if you look at either of these pages, and feel free to go ahead and do this for yourselves, listeners, it's pretty fun. We'll
put a link in the show notes so you can go look.
You can see there's a breakdown. When you look closely, there's a breakdown. Like 90% of the reviews for this place are 1-star reviews. And then maybe a very small percentage are like 4 or 5-star reviews. And those people are really happy. They'll say stuff like, "I walked into 32nd Avenue Toys and Games or Toys and Books and I had such a great time. They helped me find exactly what I was looking for."
The other ones,
however, the other ones are more like this. This is Macy T, who writes, "I went in today while shopping around 32nd Avenue. I was cornered at the entrance and the lady wouldn't let me in until I told her exactly what I was looking for. I said, 'Fiction, I guess.' She said, 'Follow me.' And her husband walked me into the store and closed the door behind them. She said they have a strict no phone policy and I wasn't allowed to go further unless I put my phone away. I felt extremely uncomfortable with her husband standing right in front of the door, blocking it, so I told her I would just leave. Especially being a female, they're alone and the only person in the store with these weirdos. There's some sketchy stuff going on in there. I feel like they sell weird services or even people if you say the right words. I don't know what that implication is. That's something else.
Something felt trafficky about this to Macy T.
Macy was like, someone needs to look into this.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. This description of an experience, I agree, is absolutely terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
I would have gone running for my life out of there. But you looked into this, Paul, right?
Well, I mean, I stopped by the shop on Saturday on Independent Bookstore Day, which I learned from them when I walked in. But I had the same exact experience as Macy T. I stepped in the door and then immediately the two people behind the counter stood up, walked over to me and said, "Can I help you find anything?" And I was like, I kind of dodged and I sort of like walked past them and I walked around and I was like, "Oh, there's something over here."
I'm trying to browse as one does at a store.
That's the problem. Browse.
No browsing.
They don't like browsing. That's the whole problem with this place.
They don't like browsing at their retail store. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I thought you might have an interesting take on this as a retail professional or former retail professional.
Yes.
But that's their problem. And it's really, I mean, what I discovered over the course of like a 30-minute conversation with these folks who I don't know what their relationship with each other is, but they said they've been managing this shop for more than 30 years.
Really?
I know. And this policy they've had in place since Amazon was what they told me.
Okay.
And basically what they've done is they've banned electronics from the store because as soon as ebook sellers and online booksellers started popping up and gaining popularity, they noticed customers would just come in and take pictures of books and leave.
Okay, I don't buy that. I'm sorry. Do other bookstores do this?
Well, no. I mean, yeah.
I mean,
other
I just
bookstores
don't buy
have
that it's that big
approach.
Of a problem is what I'm saying.
Why not? Look at what's happening to the tattered cover. Look what happened to Book Bar. Bookstores everywhere are having this problem. Everywhere.
I will point down the street, half a block, to a lovely bookstore called Westside Books that doesn't treat you like that. And I have bought books there for years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not defending their policy.
I know you're not.
I'm not defending their policy, but that's how they explain their policy.
This is so weird.
They have clearly been really struggling. And it's led them to make this different decision than other booksellers have, where they're openly hostile to browsing. They have turned books in their shelves around so it's the spine faces in, so you can't see what the book is.
Okay, so do they own the building? I'm just trying to figure out how they're paying their rent because
they don't own the building.
Okay.
An entity called Big Corona LLC owns the building.
Nice.
Owned by a lawyer with an address in Grand Junction. I called him, haven't heard back.
I'm just curious because I cannot imagine them selling a single book.
I agree. Well, they have the 1 in 20 people that go in there that leave those 5-star reviews that know exactly what they're looking for. That's who their customers are.
I am still with the reviews and the insinuation that we're getting from other folks that this is a laundering front for something.
They have an online.
Their business has changed. They do have an online presence.
They do.
That's kind of ironic.
Sell books online.
Yeah.
You can go find their website. They also write reviews of books. But I mean, they're just really struggling, I think, and haven't really ever figured out how to adapt to the internet.
But they've been open for 30 years.
Somehow.
This is what I'm saying. They got a deal with their landlord. They're paying like $2 a month rent, or they're doing something else out of that bookstore.
I'm curious though, to me, like bookstores, a lot of their business is like the little trinkets and stuff, the stationery, the notebooks, the little like birthday gifts, the cards, all that stuff.
I asked them about that actually, because remember it's 32nd Avenue Toys and Games.
Yeah, what are the toys and games?
The toys, they do have a nice toy selection. I think the toys, they also don't want you to browse. They said they brought in the toys 20 years ago. However, their newest development is in the very front of the store. They have now a section of art from local artists that they're selling, and that you are allowed to browse.
Through the window?
Because how could you possibly know what kind of art you're looking for before you go in?
How do they make sure you're not browsing other things while you're browsing the art?
They'll follow you. They'll follow you around. I walked in, I picked up a book. I picked up this Ansel Adams book of photography, and the gentleman, he just beelined straight to me. He was like, can I help you find something? Are you going to buy that book?
Oh.
As a former retail professional, that behavior is so just obnoxious and absurd and not friendly to your customer. This is aggravating me.
This is a really good pitch for public libraries.
I don't know. I don't necessarily think that. I mean, I think public libraries are amazing, obviously, but I'm just my mind is just going to down the street. There's this incredible bookstore, Westside Books. Lois Harvey's been there for decades. I walked in there. I wanted this really bizarre book I loved as a child called The Lonely Doll. I found out there was a series. She didn't have it, but she ordered it for me, called me immediately when it was there. The service there is just incredible. So you don't have to act like that is all I'm saying.
No, clearly not. I mean, they're the outlier. They're the ones that are doing something different. Everyone else is trying to be friendly and welcome you into their store so you can buy something.
Well, and toys, you got to browse.
But it's interesting, though.
Hands-on. You've been to the Wizard's Chest. We know how this works.
If we want to have bookstores, we have to buy books at bookstores.
Sure. I'm sorry that you had a weird experience. I'm glad you went and dug around, Paul.
Oh, no, I loved it. It was the most interesting experience I've had in a long time.
Paul lives for these weird interactions.
Yeah, it was my favorite.
But I also just want to thank our listeners for bringing this to our attention because I've been up and down I see it. My haircut over there. My favorite Mexican restaurant was over there. And I'd never set foot in that place before. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, I'm glad that we heard this because I love to go browse in those little, I love to look at the little trinkets and toys and places like that. And I would have been personally really offended if they had just yelled at me. I would have probably gone and cried in my car. So I'm glad that I got the heads up.
That's why Paul went. This was a Paul investigative report.
All right, one more thing for you all today. We do have a sponsored interview from our friends at Pine Melon. Please enjoy.
Hey, I'm Will Fulton, CityCast Content Director, here with Emma Alanis, the head of local partnerships at Pine Melon. Emma, what's up? How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm fabulous today.
I am doing well, and I'm so excited to talk to you about Pine Melon because, over the past few years, I feel like we've seen so many different food delivery services in Colorado, but Pine Melon is approaching things in a really sustainable, locally focused way that, makes you feel good about the food you're eating and the businesses you're supporting. So can you talk a little bit more about what you do at Pine Melon and what your mission is?
Pine Melon is a locally sourced online grocery service. We function as a website, but also as an app. And our main mission is to really support and work with farmers, ranchers, and artists and producers to meet them where they are. Help them grow their business past the farmers market and grow their brand to be part of customers' weekly grocery order, not something that they only purchase once and then they never think about again. So we really believe there's no reason why customers can't enjoy convenience and local goods all in one click. So that's what Pine Melon is really here to do by offering same-day delivery 7 days a week. We kind of say it's like 3-hour delivery because you can order within 3 hours and honestly receive the order to your door. So we really want to provide a way that's feasible for both parties and really bridges the gap in our food system.
Awesome. How do you actually operate sustainably and cut down on things like food waste, as I'm sure that's not easy?
We partner with a number of different Denver-based organizations. So Wompost is a woman-owned compost collective in Aurora. We also partner with Denver Food Rescue, which they come by about 2 or 3 times a week to rescue any of those products before they're at that point. So those just go back to thousands of people around the community, people in need, to help Denver residents in need.
It's amazing. So, I keep seeing this word on some of your promotional materials and your website, this term solar punk. I think I've seen that around the internet a little bit, but what does that mean and how does it apply to what you do at Pine Melon?
Solar punk is an interesting term, but I think it really encompasses everything that we are working towards. So the opposite of solar punk is cyberpunk, imagining a future where technology is just really advanced, but society is kind of messed up and gets controlled by big companies. And then solar punk is kind of the opposite of that. It's imagining a future where we use cool green technology to make the world better and work together really nicely and cohesively, where nature and technology and everything can be more in harmony rather than in large amounts of competition like we're so used to working in.
I like that aesthetic way more than cyberpunk, actually, or steampunk for that matter. Any of the punks, really. That's cool. So one thing that's really appealing to me as someone who is a big believer in local businesses and community is how involved Pine Melon is in Denver and all around Colorado. So your job title is head of local partnerships. How do you foster those relationships and manage to stay involved in the community through your work?
I studied sustainable agriculture and for many years considered myself a farmer myself. I learned in those roles kind of the importance of community and having a community-informed approach to everything that we do. And that's the same concept that I've brought to Pine Melon as we're trying to navigate our local food systems. We're kind of trying to bring the food back in food system by centering our producers, centering our makers, working with them directly to learn their pain points, and then kind of using that knowledge to be able to fill in the gaps. We are a growing company and we have a lot of different resources. We can offer logistical help, marketing help. We can really meet our producers and help them so it doesn't feel like it's just them versus the world. So in my role, I've created partnerships with some local farmer coalitions, farmer market groups, and I've just become a huge advocate for these small producers.
That is amazing. That is such a great mission. And, you said that you were growing and expanding, and I know you recently expanded to Boulder, which is so exciting. Do you have plans to expand to more communities in Colorado? And similarly, what are you most excited about for the future of Pine Melon?
So hopefully we're looking to expand, maybe parts of Longmont or other parts of southern Denver. And then in my role at Pine Melon, I'm most excited to watch Pine Melon become a real solution for small, struggling farmers and producers. We really want to make sure that our producers, our artisans, our makers can do what they do best. And I'm excited to be able to support them so that more people can experience the beauty and joy of real, freshly harvested food and really realize just how easy it is to support local.
That is amazing. That is definitely a mission I can get behind. And I'm actually Googling solar punk aesthetic right now. And I like what I see. So thank you for introducing me to that and telling me a little bit more about Pine Melon. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so great to be on here. And I'm excited for more people to try real food.
Awesome. All right, check out pinemelon.com to learn more. We'll have that link in our description. And lucky for you, we even have a promo code. Use CityCast Denver for $75 off your first order with Pine Melon. That's CityCast Denver, all caps, no spaces. For same-day delivery, you could have fresh, local food in your fridge today in a few hours. So go do that. And thanks for listening. Bye.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell Angela Davis about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye.